Well, it is my pleasure to again welcome you to Richie's Roost in beautiful downtown Shaco, Mississippi. You're going to hear probably a bunch of tractor stuff and vehicle stuff. I don't know why we've got some traffic on the road today more than usual. But we'll have to overcome those because there are some interesting things here that I've got to tell you this afternoon. Old friend of mine sent me an email the other day and said, "Are you tired of hearing politics and snippets about, everybody's legal concerns on television every time you turn it on?" He said maybe some of these things would kind of help. These 32 interesting but absolutely useless things to get your mind off of politics. I said thank you very much. It did, and I enjoyed it. So I'm gonna read them to you, and I hope you'll take a minute and just get away from the dirty politics, language. And we got a year and a half to go, and everybody's always coming up with some kind of new wrinkle that they can come up with, or ideas, or polls, or something. Always, we got a year and a half of that to go through. So I just wanted to get rid of it for a little while. So I'm going to talk to you about 32 interesting things to get your mind off of politics. Stay with me if you wish. If you don't have time, I'll understand. Did you know that a rat can last longer without water than a camel can? If you got a rat and you got a camel, you can try that and see, make sure that's right. Your stomach has to produce a new layer of mucus every 2 weeks, or it will digest itself. Here's a valuable piece of information. You know the little dot when you draw an eye and you put a little dot over the eye, or a little J and you put a dot over the little J? That dot has a name. It's called a tittle, 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 just in case somebody uses that in a sentence. You'll know what it is and be educated. A tittle. Did you know that a raisin dropped in a fresh glass of champagne will bounce up and down from the bottom to the top of the glass? It's in a glass of fresh champagne. It'll bounce up and down and up and down and up and down. A raisin. You can try that and see if you want to really mess up your champagne. Oh, here's one that's kind of interesting. I almost left this out because a female ferret. You know the little ferret? A female ferret will die if it goes into heat and cannot find a mate. It'll die. That's all I'll say about that. And a duck's quack, some of you have heard this, I know, a duck's quack does not echo, and nobody knows why. You can put a duck by me and I can holler out into a mountain valley and it'll echo will come back and a duck will quack and you never hear anything. And nobody knows why. Oh, and you carpenters, you know this, the builders. You need to save a little on lumber once in a while, and a 2x4 stud is not 2x4. It's 1.5 by 3.5. Save a lot of lumber that way. Oh, and you movie buffs, you've seen the chariot race in the movie Ben-Hur. Next time you see the chariot race, look very carefully way back in the background in the distance, and you'll see a small red car, automobile, in the background of the chariot race. Oh, and Charlton Heston is wearing a wristwatch. Check me out. And here's kind of scary fact. On the average, 12 newborns will be given to the wrong parents daily. That may explain some things. Donald Duck comics were banned from Finland when they made Donald Duck comics. You remember the little comic books? Finland wouldn't allow them because Donald didn't wear pants. They're pretty strict about that in Finland. I wonder how they are on bikini bathing suits. Well, anyway. Here's one of the things that Hollywood did that made sense. One of the few things I think that I've ever heard that Hollywood made sense. Because metal was scarce, the Oscars given during World War II were made out of wood. Did you know that? I didn't know it. Oh, and here's something that you don't need to write down because I'm sure you will remember it exactly. We're going to round this to the nearest 1,000. This is the number of possible ways of playing the first 4 moves per side in a game of chess. The number of possible ways of playing the first 4 moves per side in a game of chess is 318,979,564,000. That's rounded to the nearest 1,000 number of moves. If you don't believe it, try them. Count it. I wait with bated breath till you tell me you've proven that. There are no words in the English language, by the way, that rhyme with purple and orange and silver. No words rhyme with those in the English language. Oh, and the name Wendy was made up for the book of Peter Pan. Prior to the book of Peter Pan, there's no recorded name of Wendy ever listed anywhere anybody can find. Okay, Wendy. Get the hamburgers now. You know where that came from. The man's daughter, but where'd she get hers from? Who knows? Didn't come out before Peter Pan. Here is another thing that makes war sometimes seem so stupid. The very first bomb dropped by the Allies on Berlin in World War II, the very first bomb dropped on Berlin in World War II, killed the only elephant in the Berlin Zoo. Now, here's something that's extremely valuable. If one places a tiny amount of liquor on a scorpion, the scorpion will instantly go mad and sting itself to death. I've seen some liquor, that could have that could have that effect, but one little single drop on scorpion, and it'll go crazy and sting itself to death. So do not put any liquor on your pet scorpion. Okay, that advice is free. Oh, and Bruce Lee, the fighter, the Bruce Lee fighter, was so fast that they actually had to slow film down so you could see his moves. And that's the opposite of the way things normally work. And you older folks, you'll remember CDs. The first CD pressed in the U.S. was Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. Oh, and here's another valuable piece of information. The original name for a butterfly was flutterby. Flutterby. And that's a more accurate description. The phrase rule of thumb, you've heard this probably, many of you have. The rule of thumb is derived from the old English law, which stated that you could not beat your wife with anything wider than your thumb. And here's something I really didn't know. I never really thought about it. Well, you know, the name Motorola came from? The company named Motorola, how they came up with that name? Well, a long time ago, the most, I guess, famous or most used record player, now a lot of y'all don't even know what a record player was, but there was a device that played records. And the name of the company who made that device was Victrola. So Victrola played records, and that name was very, very familiar to everybody. Motorola decided that they were going to make a record player that you could play in a motor car. So they were going to call it Motorola. And that's where the name came from. I don't think the record player for the cars did very well, but that's where the name came from. Now, roses may be red or white or green, but violets are always violet. Now, here's something started not to use. By raising your legs slowly and lying on your back, you cannot sink into quicksand. Do not try that at home. I will not guarantee that, but that's what I read. Celery has a negative calories. It takes more calories to chew and eat celery than celery has in it to begin with. So if all you eat is celery, you're going to lose weight. More than you want to, I guess. Oh, and here's the thing. Once there was a Charlie Chaplin look-alike contest. You know, Charlie Chaplin was the little tramp, the little silent film tramp, Charlie Chaplin. Well, they had a look-alike contest. And unbeknownst to everybody, he entered it himself and won third place in the Charlie Chaplin look-alike contest. And if you chew gum while peeling onions, it'll keep you from crying. They say, I'm going to try that next time. I have not tried that. And Sherlock Holmes never said, elementary, my dear Watson. You can read all his books. All right. He never said that. I don't know where it came from. Oh, and here is an old law in Bellingham, Washington. I mean, this is Washington after all. This law made it illegal for a woman to take more than 3 steps backward while dancing. Did you know that the glue on Israeli postage is certified kosher? It is, according to these folks. And the Guinness Book of World Records, the book itself, holds the record for being the book most often stolen from a public library. It owns its own record for being the book most often stolen from libraries. Well, here's something I started not to use too, but I thought I would anyway. It's just kind of an interesting thing. Astronauts are not allowed to eat beans before they go into space because passing wind in a spacesuit damages the spacesuit. I've known some folks that, I won't say that. And here is the last valuable piece of information I'm sure you were holding your breath to learn. Bats, you know, the little flying furry bats, always turn left when they exit a cave. Well, thank you, Alan, for sending me that information. I'm sure these folks will like it. Oh, and by the way, I told you last week, we talked about getting, moving from Richie's Roost. Well, it's going to take a while, and we're in the process of getting ready to get ready. You duck hunters will know what getting ready to get ready means. That means that you got to buy a gun to get ready to get ready. You got to get your shells, and you got decoys and boats and plans to lay to get ready. Then on the morning, you get ready. So we're getting ready to move from Chaco, and it's going to take a while. So bear with us. I hope that was just a little respite from all of this stuff that we get on TV these days that is perfectly useless. And I sort of apologize for taking up your time telling you this, but maybe sometimes it's a good thing just to get away. So with that, until next time, I'm Jim Ritchie, and I will see you again next time. Oh, and real quick, what is the little dot above the I and the J called? Have you forgotten already? What am I going to do with you? Until next time.